The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at dallasgenealogy.com.
Speaking of Stephanie, we have a real treat today. She is the presenter of our program on Fold3. And I assume all of you know, Stephanie is the manager of the Genealogy and History section at the Dallas Central Library, and a great resource for all of us at DGS. She's going to be talking about Fold3, which it provides a convenient access to military records, including the stories, the photos, and the personal documents of the men and women who served. And the name Fold3 comes from the traditional flag folding ceremony in which the third fold is made in honor and remembrance of veterans who've served for the United States. And I know Stephanie's presentation has got all sorts of additional information, so I am going to stop sharing my screen and let Stephanie share her screen.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Let me get this pulled up here. All right. I think we're in good shape. Hi, everyone. I am speaking to you live from the Genealogy and History Division of the Dallas Public Library. The last time I spoke to GGS was actually March 7th. I remember that day specifically because a week later, our library closed to the public, and we have not had the buildings open to the public since then. We've been through quite a journey to get to where we are now. We are actually now providing curbside service where we have staff bring out the books and materials that you can check out online to your car and put them in your trunk or back seat. That's happening actually at all of our library branches right now, including here at the Central Library. We have expanded our research services through email, and just recently added chat services and video appointments on our website. So make sure to check that out as you're doing your genealogy research online. We are available to help you however we can, including providing scans and access to those books that you can't necessarily flip through here in the building. Part of what we're talking about today is what we have available as far as digital resources go. And one of our online databases that the library provides is access to Fold3. And as Susan was just talking about, Fold3 is named for the traditional flag folding ceremony during which a traditional third fold is made to honor and remember veterans. And I just want to pause for a second, and as I was going back through this program to prepare, the good news is we have a lot of updates to Fold3. Recently, they have a new layout that we'll go through and take a look at, and I think it makes finding things just a little bit easier, and that's something that we all probably need right now. But the big thing that stuck out to me when I was going through this presentation is creating stories. I think many times we're so focused on finding who the parents were or what the next generation back is, and we don't necessarily take the time to flesh out the stories of our ancestors' lives. And the things that we're going to talk about today are going to help you think about, what your ancestor life was like, and be able to take little nuggets of information and piece those together in an encompassing picture of your ancestors' lives. And I want you to keep that in mind kind of as we're going through how you can take those different pieces and create your ancestors' story, and particularly their military story as well. So, went too far. So, for those of you not familiar, Fold3 is one of the top genealogical databases for military records. They partner with the National Archives. If any of you have gone through the old microfilm rolls, most of those rolls are digitized now and are available on Fold3. Fold3 is a subscription-based website, but the Dallas Public Library has a library subscription that you can access for free with your Dallas Public Library card. You don't necessarily have to pay for it. It contains over 561 million records, not only of military, but there are non-military resources as well, which we'll go through. It was purchased by Ancestry, and they've really worked to flesh out the search function and make it available to search these records in a multitude of ways, which we're going to go through today. So today we're going to talk about what types of records are available on Fold3, how to browse and navigate the database, how to use those fancy search tools, and how to customize the results to get to what you're looking for. And then how to print and save, because if you can't print and save, then you don't have anything to prove you searched. So we'll walk through that process. All right, first section, what will I find on Fold3? So this is going to be a multitude of military records. The majority of records are US based, but as we'll talk about, there are some international records as well. It covers the American Revolution through more recent conflicts, but you do want to keep in mind as you're searching that each conflict will have a different type of record available. So your older wars are going to have more information available, whereas your more recent conflicts, a lot of those records are still private and have to be requested. But you'll run into really valuable information through draft registration records, military service records, benefit records, particularly for Revolutionary War and War of 1812 bounty land warrant applications, which provided land as payment for military service. You'll also have a treasure trove of information and pension records, including Civil War widows' pensions. And then if you have any Southern ancestors during the Civil War times, property claims records will provide a lot of information on Southern life in the South. So there's a Confederate Citizens File and then the Southern Claims Commission that will have records. So the big one is the military service records for the Revolution, Civil War, and the War of 1812, which will have the soldier's name, age, and physical description generally. It'll definitely have the military rank, unit, and state from when they served. At times, it'll have their residence or where they mustered in. And then generally it gives the length of service, the date of discharge, or a record if there was a death in battle. Pension files, I really enjoy pension files because, like I said, they are such a treasure trove of information. They're gonna give a date and place of birth when many times there aren't birth certificates given. Marriage, they'll have records of marriages, any property holdings. A lot of times they'll list all of their children. And you'll find supporting documents like discharge papers, at times marriage and death certificates, physician's reports, which are important for establishing the health of the soldiers, how they were doing during the time that they applied for the pension. One of my favorites, I've never found this for my family. I'm always the one pager or the odd one out, but at times people will have ripped out their family Bible pages in order to prove their descendants or their births or their marriages because they might not have a marriage certificate or something like that. But the majority of the time you'll run into testimonials from family members, neighbors, and other soldiers, which are really important for establishing how long a person has lived in a location, where they served, when they served, and just giving details of their whole life. Oh, sorry, I keep skipping slides here. So some highlights overview to go through the different wars and kind of see what's available for each. Revolutionary War service and pension records, War of 1812 pension files, which I believe they've just finished. They spent years transcribing these. Army registers through 1969, Civil War service records for both sides, as well as widows' pensions, World War I and World War II draft registration cards, Navy muster rolls through 1971, and then for Vietnam Service Awards and photograph collections. So that kind of sums up the overview of military records for the U.S. I wanted to talk about the African American History Collection next. As you'll see from the new Fold3 layout, they actually spotlighted this a little bit better, so you can search and find it a little more easily. But the African American History Collection has colored troop records from the Civil War, slave records for the District of Columbia, Danish West Indies records, which are very hard to come by, and South Carolina estate inventories and bills of sale, which are really important for tracing slave ancestors. If you aren't a Dallas Public Library card holder or don't have access to the Fold3 Library Edition, keep an eye out for February during Black History Month, because generally Fold3 does make this collection available to search for free. So you'll want to kind of keep your eye out for that if you don't want to do a subscription. But lots of great resources here that you'll want to check out. There is also a Native American collection, which has all of the National Archives microfilm rolls digitized, which is immensely helpful if you've ever taken a look at that microfilm collection. It's quite enormous. But there are a number of great resources that will give you so many exciting tidbits of information. Not only are there the Dawes enrollment cards, which featured people registering for land in 1906, but they also contain the Dawes packets, which feature even people who were necessarily rejected from the Dawes enrollment. There are also Eastern Cherokee applications, the Guian Miller roll, and Indian census rolls. And I just wanted to spotlight, because I find this fascinating, the Dawes packets. Personal story, I have an ancestor who was born in 1851 and was orphaned, and I think that he belongs to this family. I think this is the Dawes packet of his brother. But if you take a look, it's a transcribed interview with the applicant, which profiles their experience, their life. It's an interview. It has a description of this person, James W. Harrison, It even goes on to say, I was stole and carried away when I was small, 2 years about, he says, and he went to Dallas County. So it's a personal interview. It's completely transcribed. It lists his parents' names. It lists other relatives' names. Of course, it doesn't list my relative because he had passed at this point, of course. But it does contain marriages, birth dates, physical description, just a plethora of information. But if y'all have Harris's or Harrison and this rings a bell, please contact me. But as you can see, this is going to provide a lot of information pretty much firsthand because they were examined by the commission. So something to kind of keep an eye out for. This gentleman, James Harrison, and his sister applied for the Dawes role and were both rejected because they couldn't necessarily prove their Native American heritage. But they both had the same testimony, and it's very compelling. A read through if you ever have a free moment. And we'll go on next to other non-military records that you'll run into that you might not necessarily think to look on a military database for, but Fold3 also has census and vital records. They have city directories and newspapers. Our staff here at the library has been working on a transcription project of Dallas City permit books, and being able to have these city directories online to check for street name spellings, spellings of last names, so that we can put those in the notes and different things like that has been super helpful. We've been using Fold3 like crazy. There are also newspapers, including the Chicago Daily Tribune, as you might see here. And then, wildly, there are some very interesting collections that you might not necessarily scroll down to see, including FBI case files, UFO investigations, naturalization records, Holocaust era records, a Detroit scrapbook, and then passport applications, which of course will have a lot of information that you wouldn't normally run into. All right, we're going to talk about the new Fold3 layout. Here it is. Okay, so the big thing that I noticed looking at the new Fold3 layout is they're really pushing the main search screen rather than the browse feature that they've kind of traditionally had. So we're going to talk about searching in the next section, but just keep in mind, you know, you can search at any point while you're browsing. And they do have a well built out search function that you can use and filter through as you go. But as we go through, we're looking for these purple boxes that I've highlighted on the screen. So be looking for those as we go through. All right, the first thing that popped out to me looking at the new screen is that they've really fleshed out how to look at the international records. It default logs you onto the United States screen, but you can just very easily go through the different countries that they have available, including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Some of the features that you'll find in the international records are British Army World War I service records, Australian World War I service records. There's a collection of World War I diaries from the UK, as well as naval lists, court martial registers, and much, much more. So if you do have relatives that served internationally, that's a great place to take a look and check that out. But for the most part, we're going to stick with United States as we go through and browse and look at our examples. So you'll notice now each conflict or ethnic group has a thumbnail tab now with a picture. So you can see from the menu here, African American and Native American have actually been pulled out from the non-military records, so you can access these very quickly. The librarian in me looked at this screen and thought to myself, well, this isn't chronological like it's been in the past. And it took me forever, but it actually is alphabetical now as you go through. But you'll notice, it is now U.S. Revolutionary War and U.S. Civil War. So those are going to be under U's rather than C's and R's. You'll also notice that they've taken the Union and the Confederacy out, so you can just browse through Confederate records, or you can just browse through Union records as you see fit. But I thought, since we're on this front screen, we'll take a look at the non-military records for a second, just because I think you can pretty much guess what's going to be under each thumbnail, but non-military is kind of not specific. But so we'll take a look at that first. And in here, this is where you're going to find your census records, your city directories, your naturalizations, your newspapers, your passport applications, different photo collections, and then some vital records. Again, these are all going to be alphabetized. If you notice at the top, it does allow you to search by publication name. So you can at times pop in a location, say Dallas City Directories, and search. But I think it's definitely worth taking a look through those non-military records and seeing what collections are available and what records might help you in your search. And then, as another example, we're going to look at the U.S. Revolutionary War thumbnail and kind of walk through kind of how a different record collection is organized and how you would browse through it. Okay, U.S. Revolutionary War. So again, Fold3 is really pushing the search function, because as you go here, the first things that pop out to me is the search function, and then it talks about featured publications, but it only lists 3 featured publications. And if I'm just randomly popping through here, I don't think any of my people are going to be on these featured publications. And so it kind of looks like the only thing I can do is to search. However, that is not the case. You can actually click either on the Publications tab or on that See All feature and look at the available collections that you can search through. Because Revolutionary War publications include state militia records, service records for the whole U.S., pension files, Continental Congress papers, Pennsylvania archives, which are just a treasure trove of resources if you have Pennsylvania ancestors. It even has George Washington's correspondence from the Revolution. So these are things that you might not necessarily know exist, but unless you browse through. So I went ahead and just picked Revolutionary War service records for us to look through as an example. So I've chosen this collection to look through. It has a overview at the top that tells you what these records include, how they're arranged, and it provides you with examples of what you're going to see as you look through. And if that wasn't enough for you, in the description, which goes on and on with more information than you could ever possibly want, it goes on to describe how these service records were created, how they were organized, and contain full source information for what you're looking at. So the overview is a quick snapshot. The description will provide you with so much content on these records. Okay, so now we're going to the browse feature. And any of you are familiar with Fold3 and their browse layout. It took us a while, but we got here. Again, it's going to be more buried with the search feature more prominent now. But here it is under the browse. Fold3's browse layout works in columns. So each column that you pick narrows your browsing further. So for instance, with our service records, the first thing you're going to pick is the state. So if you do know the state that your ancestor served in, you would pick that. And then it would narrow it to regiment. And then it would narrow it to individual or the resident or the regiment information. At any point though, like say I know my ancestor served in Delaware. I can pick Delaware and I can go back up to the search bar and I can start my search just in Delaware if I don't know the regiment. So there are a lot of different ways to work with this browse function. Eventually, you'll go into each regiment's alphabetical list of individuals. So you can see from this one I've picked here, it lists each person alphabetically by their last name, and then it takes you through their pages of their service record. So this particular person, Peter Adams, has a 5-page service record, and you can select page 1 and it'll take you to the viewer. If at any point you want to go back, perhaps you've not run across the correct Peter Adams, you can actually wave your mouse in front of that little tab that I have boxed in purple, and it'll take you back through your layered browsing. So you can go back to a different regiment or a different state. And the little left arrow will pop back up when you wave your mouse over it. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of the browse layout by publication. I just want to remind you, as we're going through, if you ever need help or can't necessarily figure out where to navigate to, on the home screen, Fold3 has a help feature, which I'm going to take you into, and it's going to give you a general overview of what we're talking about today, and you can pick your options here. A lot of times they will have added content specific to different wars and other video content. Right now they don't, but this is always good to kind of check back with. Fold3, particularly since they're owned by Ancestry, to see what new things or new videos they have added. Continuing with our home screen, I wanted to show y'all CW Stories, which is across the top there, boxed in purple. You may not have looked at that lately, but it is in beta testing. It's Civil War stories. So, for instance, here we go, next tab. You can actually go in and learn about the different battles and about the different regiments in the Civil War. For instance, let's look at a particular Civil War battle, the Battle of Peachtree Creek. As you can see here, it gives an overview of what happened in the battle. It'll give battle facts, when, how many troops, the number of casualties and wounded, and general information on the battle. But that really paints a picture of what happened, what your ancestors might have gone through, and even who they might have served with, because that also gives a list of the regiments that served in the battle. So it'll list all of the regiments involved in each battle. And you can separate that by Union and Confederacy. So if, for instance, we're looking at the Alabama 16th Infantry here, which it's pretty small on my computer, sorry guys. But in summation, it talks about each battle that each regiment would have participated in. So it'll give you a kind of timeline as to what your ancestor may have been at what time, what battles they might have fought in, and how they participated in the Civil War. So this is really helpful, I think, particularly if you have an ancestor with a very, very short service card. I have one that's literally 1 page and it says private and lists the unit. So you are able to go in and use this tool to recreate their military service. So I think that it's a great feature to kind of add. You'll also want to think about if you're working on Civil War specifically, going in and the photograph collections and looking through those. I know a lot of times we're just really intent on getting a photo of our ancestor in particular, but I think that there can be photos of battles, photos of people in the unit that help paint the picture, even if you don't necessarily have a photo of your particular person. All right, and speaking of recreating lives, we're going to take a look at the memorial feature on Fold3. So you can, again, across the top, you can click on the Memorials tab at the top, or use the Search All Memorials feature on the right. So what are memorials? They're pages created by users that celebrate relatives who served in the US military. So you can search the honor wall to see if your relative or ancestor has been memorialized already. You can search by name. You can also search by conflict. And there are interactive memorials for the USS Arizona for World War II. And there's a Vietnam Memorial Wall specifically. However, you can go in and create your own page if it's not already created of your ancestor or relative. The caveat is that you do have to have a Fold3 free account. So I went ahead today, or a couple days ago rather, and created a free Fold3 account. I promise you, they did not charge me. I did not have to put in my credit card. It is free. But you use this free Fold3 account to create memorials. It also is great, and we're going to see this in the print and save section, but it allows you to download whole files at a time, which is very helpful. And then you are able to save links to records on your ancestry family tree, or share discoveries with your friends and family. So definitely worth it. I haven't really gotten spammed or anything, so I can assure you that it is safe, and it's not a scam. It's just to track who creates what memorial. So here is a memorial I created. This is my grandfather. This is a great way to share and what you know about someone or something, and you can actually link records to a person. So if you see here, this is my grandfather, Billy Clyde Jonsson. I did have a photograph of him in his naval uniform. You can see he's holding my Aunt Sandra. in the photo, so that was a little hard to crop. But it lists his ship that he served on. I was able to link that record, and his muster date. A funny story is that he and my grandmother ran away to New Mexico and eloped. And then he lied about his age because he was still 17 and joined the Navy. So he was a little late for World War II, but they did put him in the World War II conflict period. But you can also, as you can see, I submitted this photograph here, but you can also share stories. There's a tab to do that. I do have a interview that I did with him in junior high that is somewhere in my folks' house that I'm gonna have to add as well. But you can add stories like that that will help share people's memories of service, if you have anything like that. Thank goodness for my mom for keeping that, because I don't think I would have. But you can share different content like that, so your ancestors remembered and memorialized. One thing that you do want to keep in mind is that the data or media that goes on Fold3 is granting the website the right to reuse the material, whether that's through like a marketing push or something like that. They can use that, so you'll want to keep that in mind. You'll also want to keep in mind that anyone can contribute or edit the page. So I've created this one, but our cousin Sunny could come in and decide that she wanted to add content as well. It's not just my page. So remember that too. All right. So that's a little walkthrough of the memorials. Now we're going to talk about the search feature, which is, I'm sure, is what you've all been waiting for. We're going to talk about using the advanced search. You can always use the field at the top, but I'm going to go ahead and click on search at the top screen and go into the advanced search so we can see all the ways to customize our search. And you may be sitting here thinking, I don't know if I had somebody who served in the military, or I know I don't have anybody who served in the military who's my direct ancestor. I urge you to, even if you don't know, search. You may run into non-military records. You may run into draft cards. It's definitely worth the search. If you've already thoroughly done a search and you know, like, my direct ancestor didn't serve for this particular reason, think about looking for brothers, uncles, cousins, because you never know, like, when somebody might have been mentioned as next of kin or in correspondence or in a pension application. You know, your direct ancestor may have given testimony saying, yes, this person is my brother, they were born here. And that's important information to keep for your search, because this is helping prove that the sibling relationship, the different relationships that might be occurring. All right, searching. There are a bunch of different ways to search with this advanced search. You can use this filter button that I like because it's kind of laid out a little bit better. I just don't like to willy-nilly type things into the search bar. But this allows you to pick, okay, I want to search by name, or I want to search by name and date. You can add a filter for each one. You can add, and this filter feature can be used multiple times. That's the thing to keep in mind. So for instance, I did a search for my great-grandfather, George Knowles, and you can see that that's profiled at the top under name. But again, George Knowles is a pretty common name. So you can add something like a birth date or a place to go along with that. You also have different filters that you may not know about. You can add a military branch if you know the branch, service number if you have that, military conflict, like if you're only searching for World War II, if you're only searching for Revolutionary War, you can search that. You know rank, if you're searching for just a particular publication, and by publication they mean a collection of records. So like the Revolutionary War records, service records that we were just looking at, that would be an example of a publication. So you can just search those by choosing the other filters. So it's a really powerful search tool. Also, you can just start typing and then it'll automatically kind of guess what you're typing in. So for instance, I'm searching for George Knowles and I type Texas, and it gives me the option to search for Texas as a place. So I can add that in. Then you can actually look for different ways to narrow that search down by looking to the left. So if you're particularly looking in World War I, you can choose that. If you're looking in different places, you can choose that. And even choose your publication type. You can narrow this down really any way that you like. So what I ended up doing here is I searched for George Knowles. I got a bunch of results, including Vermont, Wisconsin, what have you. So I added Texas. I still had a lot of results. So I added his birth month and year to August 1905. The thing that you want to keep in mind is that it is only giving me results that feature my great-grandfather's full birthday. So if you're think about if you're looking at a census record. Census records generally, except for 1900, don't give the birth month. So the searches that I've done, it's filtered out any less relevant results, and it's only giving me the things that say August 1905. So it's given me 2 results. I do know that these are both my great-grandfather, but you've got to think about if there's something that just says 1905 or that just says Texas. And you may think about closing, and you can actually take away your search functions. If you take a look at the purple box again, you can actually X out and say, I don't want to keep that birth month and year. I just want to look at George Knowles and Texas. So those are going to give you different results based on you broadening your search again. So just as a overview, you want to include pieces of information. I see a lot of people who are researching for the first time, and they're so passionate about trying to locate, somebody that they knew who has passed away, and they're just saying, okay, well, this is my great-grandfather, George Knowles. He was born in Hunt County. He moved to Beaumont. He was married in Tarrant, and I'm going to add all of these places in here and see what it comes up with. And just like we saw with that previous search, it's going to narrow that information down quite a bit. And so you're not going to get necessarily all the information that may be your ancestor. So you want to include pieces of information at a time, because every piece of information you add to the search reduces the number of results you receive. And then you want to vary that information and be searching for different locations for different times of life. the best example I can really say to go along with this is, you wouldn't necessarily search for your grandmother age 4 on a 1900 census if by her married name. You want to think about the information that you have and include what you think would be relevant for the time period that you're looking for. And then if you're looking for something specific, like a service record, etc., you do want to make sure that you are going to the collection, publication, title of interest, and then searching within that collection. That's going to get you the best results. You also want to think about all kinds of different ways that the name could be misspelled, or abbreviations and nicknames for that person. So, a lot of times you'll see George as just G-E-O. I've seen it as a G at various times. Knowles gets misspelled quite frequently. I found a pretty recent obituary, 1940s, where they completely spelled the person's name with an N, and you would think that they would know if they're doing the obituary. But just be prepared for misspellings. There is a wildcard feature where you can sub that to use as a, I'm not sure how this is going to be spelled. Let me sub this asterisk in its place. A good example that I have for this is the last name Kinnaman. I've seen this spelled with multiple different ways with multiple different vowels. And what I just end up doing when I search for it is just putting asterisks in for all the vowels, because sometimes it's K-E-N, sometimes it's K-I-N, sometimes it's K-O-N. You just really never know. So for me, for that search, I just use wildcards for the vowels and then hope it comes out well. But a good rule of thumb would be to kind of start out your research, see how the names are misspelled, do a Google search so that you're prepared. This Knowles family that's in my line actually does go back to the Revolution, and you will run into very interesting spellings for it as you go back. So just keep in mind that it's not always going to be spelled the way you see it in modern times. The next thing you want to do is learn about what kind of records are available for the time period that you're researching. One thing I get a lot when we are open, I get a lot of people coming to me saying, oh, well, I'd love to see my dad's Vietnam service record, or I'm really wanting to know what battles of World War II my grandfather served in. And a lot of times we are not able to satisfy that request right away. And there is a reason. Some military personnel files, so a lot of World War I and World War II were actually destroyed by fire in 1973. And if you do a Google search kind of through the National Archives, they are doing some wonderful things with restoring some of these burnt records that they were able to save. But on a whole, it was a major devastating loss that is not able to be repaired. So a lot of times there might not be a full personnel file for that time period, depending on what branch of service the person served in. Another thing to think about is 20th century military service records aren't necessarily going to be online, and they need to be requested from the National Personnel Records Center. And generally they only release those to next of kin unless there are extenuating circumstances. But instead of me being able to pull it up on a computer for you, you would have to fill out an application for that record. All right, so we are on to our very last section, viewing, saving, and printing on Fold3. So this is my great-grandfather's draft registration card that we are looking at, and we're going to kind of delve into that a little bit more. Okay, so this is my search. We kind of talked about the different ways to search, but I really want to look at this draft registration card a little bit more. All right. So the first thing that pops up is it automatically will bring up all of your search terms to search and find on the actual viewer. I just immediately close this out when I have things like the draft registration cards because I don't need to find where his name is. But if you think back to those DAWs packets that we were looking at that were very detailed, you might need to search and find on those and get to where your person is listed. Here, I just close it out. You can always use the toolbar to bring it back up if you need it, but for the most part, I just end up closing this out. Okay, the next thing is that will pop up is the image info, and this will contain the transcription of what is listed here. As you can see, it's been transcribed kind of as you see it. One thing I noticed, if you take a look at the very bottom where it says employer, it says Knoll's Food Store without an E. So that is something that I would want to correct, which we're going to talk about. But it also lists, I'm going to go to the next slide because you can't screenshot everything at once. It also gives you the source information for the card. So you'll be able to see this is where it's from at the National Archives. This is the publication for it on Fold3, and this is how this record came to be. You can always close out of it by going to that little I info thing at the bottom that's boxed in purple. If you don't want to look at it, you just want to look at the card. But I always find that the info button is helpful with info. This is the cool part that has been, I think, added, I want to say in the last year. But you're able to annotate or comment on this card. So we're going to talk about annotating versus commenting. Annotating is correcting the label or transcribing the record to make it easier for others to find. And the best example of this is if you've done searches on Ancestry, you'll run into names and brackets below it that, take a very interesting census taker's handwriting and actually make it readable because you know that that is your ancestor. So instead of this horrible misspelling, it's like, oh, this is easier to find because somebody added their correct spelling of this last name. So that is an example of an annotation. For instance, I could, since I saw that they missed the E in Knoll's Food Store, I could suggest that they add the E to that transcription. Another example of something that I could do is my great-grandfather lists that he was born in Wolf City. That's not actually how Wolf City is spelled. It does have an E at the end of Wolf. So I could update that. I could also add a comment instead, which allows me to kind of discuss the record or add my thoughts to the record. So for instance, I know I could add a comment for Knoll's Food Store and say that I know that my great-grandfather owned this location, or he owned the food store They obviously resided above the food store because his address is the same as his place of employment. I can add comments like that as comments. So the way you add these, if you notice, it says no annotations or comments have been added to this image on the left. To add a comment, you go to this little plus sign at the top that's boxed in here. You click on that and it gives you the option to highlight and then correct or comment on the highlighted portion. So a lot of different things that you can do here to help make this record more accessible to others. Another thing that you want to look at that you may have passed over is the film strip button. And when you hit this film strip button that's boxed in purple again, is it brings up what the actual microfilm roll would look like. And what's fascinating about this is that it groups it by person. So not only is there a page 1 here, which we traditionally see with draft registration cards, but you can also see here that there is a page 2. And if you remember from our search, it only gave you one link to a draft registration card. And unless you go to the bottom here and look at that film strip, you never know that there is a second page. And that second page, I don't have a screenshot for you, but it contains a physical description that they did for the physical examination for the draft. So this is always a good way to look for more information. You're going to run into, if you're looking for pension records, service records like we saw before, those are going to be multiple page documents. So you always want to make sure that you're examining the whole portion of information for your ancestor. So you found your record. You want to keep the record or have a record that you found the record. I always like to find things late at night, and sometimes I don't remember to save them or where I found them. So always remember to save. Don't be like me. So your inclination may be to go to that Save to Ancestry button and immediately save to Ancestry. And that's all well and good, particularly if you have an Ancestry subscription. But you do want to keep in mind that it's going to save the link to the image, but not the image itself. And the way you want to think about this is you're not going to be able to view the image again if you don't have the subscription to Fold3. So if you're ever thinking of letting your Fold3 subscription lapse or using it through the library subscription, you may not be able to get back to it again. So it's always good to have a backup. So if you want to save a Fold3 image, you can download the image to your computer. And then if you do want to save it to Ancestry, you can upload it as a picture or a PDF to your Ancestry tree. But that way you always have access to that record. And it's not just saving that link. The way that you save an image is you go to the tool icon, which I'm sure those of you familiar with Ancestry know that toolbox icon well. So you'll go to that tool icon, you'll select download, and then it gives you the option to select entire image or portion of the image. At which point you can choose if you want an image file or a document file. JPEG is the image file, PDF is the document file. And then download it. And remember that you've got to do this for each page. So as we had just talked about, the World War II draft registration card is a 2-page deal. downloading page 1 is not automatically going to give me page 2. So you're going to want to make sure that you go back and get page 2. Now, if you've got the exciting thing, if you've created that free Fold3 account and you run into something like a huge pension file record. This is a War of 1812 pension file. And it just happens to be, I believe, 63 pages. It does give you the ability to download the entire file. Thank goodness. Because you definitely don't want to be sitting there downloading each image one page at a time. So that does offer it as an option. As I was looking at it last week, it does appear that you can go back and do this for smaller size files. I was able to do it with a 14-page file. So they've expanded that entire file access greatly. So I think it's definitely worth it to sign up for that free account. When you do download the entire file, keep in mind that it's going to download as a document file, that PDF type file. It's viewable in Adobe Acrobat or in your internet browser. Keep in mind that your images are going to be made to fit on each page here. And then that image size is not always going to be editable. So if you perhaps wanted to put something on a landscape or blow it up, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do that with a document file unless you're just zooming in or something. Which leads us to printing. Here we go for printing. Again, you're going to the tool icon. You're gonna click print, and you have the option to select entire image or portion of image. And because I use Google Chrome, it's going to give you a preview of what that looks like. So you can see, again, if you just do the direct print option, you aren't necessarily able to turn the image if you wanted to print it or manipulate it. It's just going to print it and fit it to the page automatically. It will list the source information, which is highly helpful, I think, particularly if you want to go back and reference your sources. That is helpful. But if you're looking for more of a way to go back and look at things later or perhaps print them bigger, you would want to look at downloading an image file that you can maybe print landscape and have that full page view. And that is about it for me. I wanted to remind everybody that while our library building may be closed, our genealogy and history library staff are here for you. We are in the building Tuesdays through Saturdays, but are accepting emails and calls anytime. You can call us. This is our number. We are doing email reference, lookups, copying, scanning, whatever you need. You can contact us at genealogy@dallaslibrary.org. We do have a new research page up for the whole building, dallaslibrary.org research, where you can chat with us and schedule or request video appointments. And then we will have upcoming virtual 2021 programs at bit.ly/GPL programs. So please make sure to check back for that. They are going to be announced soon. And I thank you all for being with us today. And please let me know if you have questions.
Stephanie, we do have some questions.
Wonderful.
And if you want to stop sharing, well, now let's let you, in case there's a question about a page. I know
Okay.
Larry Webb had a question about renewing his library card. Larry, are you still on in the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so go ahead and ask Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie, I received a letter from the library that said I needed to renew my library card, and I've had this since probably July or August. Is there a way that I could do that at the branch, or can I do it online?
You can do it online.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You can email library customer service at dallaslibrary.org, or we are on chat right now. We do have a chat function, and we can renew your card through there. You just go to our webpage, and there's a little chat feature at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And Patty Smith, you had a question about the Fold3 account.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Patty.
Hi. I did have a question. Since I already have a Fold3 account, do I still need to create the new Fold3 account so that I can add memorials about my dad and my other relatives?
No, ma'am. If you already have a paid account, you don't need to sign up for a free account.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Now, I know, Carolyn, you just sent a question through chat, but if you want to unmute yourself, you can do that. But Carolyn Simpson has a question about advanced search. Can you use the question mark as a wild card?
No, you can only use the asterisk.
Okay.
I did reference that in the search, and for some reason Fold3 doesn't like question marks.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So anyone else who has a question, just unmute yourself.
I have a question about the password. What is the login password?
Okay, so for your Dallas Library account, you should have a personalized password set up. If you haven't changed it, your card number should be your username, and your password should be the last 4 of your card number. That's the default.
My phone number.
No, the last 4 of your card number.
Oh, the card number.
Stephanie, when we first set those up, this is Barbara Ware. When we first set those up, I mean, at the very, very beginning, they used the last 4 digits of your phone number. So,
yes.
So some people
originally that's what they were. Try both. We can reset passwords through the chat function. So you can chat with us and we can get that reset for you if you have any problems.
Thank you.
Just click in the chat in the corner. And that's on all of our Dallas Public Library web pages. There's a little chat function now.
Stephanie, this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
Caroline again.
Hi.
You guys have been alone in the 8th floor for now about a year. Have you reorganized or changed things around while we've been away?
Well, not to the point that you wouldn't recognize it. But we have been doing a bunch of things. Every thing now has an RFID tag, which is a radio frequency tag, which is going to help us find things that we haven't been able to find, but we've touched every single book in the space at least 2 to 3 times now to get those tags set up and organized. So I think that we found most things, but we are anxiously awaiting y'all to come back and tell us all the things that you can't find. But we have been working. We've been able to inventory our limited access space, which we've, I would say that has not been completed maybe at all, or within a 15-year time period at least. So we've been able to find a lot of things that had fallen out of the catalog. If you can imagine, if things don't get used, sometimes they disappear and we don't know that we have them. And so we've been able to find a lot of things that we didn't know we had. We've also been working at reorganizing. I've been working at reorganizing the US section so that you can better browse it and not have to stoop down and look at that pesky bottom shelf. We've also been adding a lot of things to the collection as well. We've been getting new books, and then we've been processing donations, as well as moving things from the history collection into the genealogy collection. Ironically, we got an email asking us a question about slavery laws in Mississippi. Was a reference question that we had last week. And I was so excited because I had just transferred a book over called Slavery in Mississippi. And I was like, I just had that book. I will go get that.
Oh, wow. So it means that we ought to just re-examine the catalog again by subject, just because we might find new things that weren't there years before.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, how exciting.
Yes.
Yes, and for the genealogy books, we have been adding county listings for things that only had the city name, so that you are able to also search by county and bring up individual cities within that county.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Stephanie, have you all cataloged all of the locality microfilms?
No, not quite yet. That is a project that is still in progress. All of the Texas microfilm is in, and as well as the Virginia microfilm, but that is a work in progress. A long story, but we only have a few computers that will let us do that. So our ability to do that is somewhat limited. However, we did get Richard, our volunteer cataloger, back about 2 weeks ago. And we were very, very excited to have him back in the building with us. And we will be having some original cataloging on our shelves shortly.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, a couple of things that have come up in the chat is Tony gave a URL to the research page. Is that it, Tony? The DPL research?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And a question about signing up for the seminars. Jim tells us that the spring seminar registration will be up in a week or so. So be watching for that. And then after that seminar, the summer seminar registration will become available. Okay, any additional questions about anything?
Yes, Susan, if I could, I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Stephanie and her staff at the library. I had a...
Jim, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Flip your microphone down in front of your face.
Oh, sorry about that. My mistake. I just wanted to give a shout out to Stephanie and her staff at the library. I had a kind of complicated research question come up last week, and I emailed them, and the next day I had 4 different articles from 4 different books in my email inbox, which gave me the answer to the question I had. So they're doing a great job down there, even though we can't get into the building.
Thank you, Jim.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Jeff and Allison Bean. I think you're still on there. Those are some of our family search researchers from the library who are hopefully back in the comfort of their own home. Hopefully you're warm and comfortable there, but it's good to see you again.
Yes,
Yes.
I've been chatting with them. Good to see you both. We do have a question. How do you sign up for a SIG meeting? You do not have to sign up. I mean, it's free. So go to our webpage under events, and there'll be a link to the virtual meetings through the webpage. Again, they're free, and we welcome everyone to the SIG meetings.
And Susan, if there's a particular SIG meeting that they want advanced information or detailed information about, then each one of the SIG leaders may also have a separate mailing list. So I would suggest that they email that SIG leader and say, put me on your email list.
Thank you, Barbara. That's a very good recommendation. And those emails are on the webpage. If you've got a question, you can always, a general question, you can send an email to info@dallasgenealogy.org. Well, that contact information is on our front page, the web page. And if you need some more specific information, we can give that to you.
Someone on the chat asked what SIG stood for. It stands for Special Interest Group.
And that's the German, the DNA, the African American, I think Roots Magic. We've got a Capel group. Again, under the events, there is a special interest groups with more detailed information. So, and those presentations are geared specifically for that. I think we got best practices Jewish, and so the presentation would be specific to that special interest group.
And I'll add too that several of the special interest groups are recording their meetings now, and so you can go to that group's website and you can see, actually literally see some of their past meetings and enjoy it that way.
Yes, and everyone is welcome. Stephanie, thank you so much for an excellent presentation.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you for
Very good.
the opportunity.
We miss you, Stephanie.
Oh, I miss you guys. You don't even know. It's very quiet.
Yes, I'm sure it is.
Stephanie did very kindly allow us to record this meeting, so it will be produced and available on our website in a day or two, and you can go back and pick up any details you might have missed.
Yeah, there's an awfully lot on that website. And if you've got a Dallas library card, you can access it free through their website. So, any final questions? All right. Well, sorry.
I did want to add, we recently got news that Ancestry Library Edition is free remote access through the end of March. So if you have been using the library's subscription to Ancestry from home, you didn't lose it 2 days ago. It is extended until March.
And just to remind you, newspaper archives are accessible online now while the library is closed, and Fold3. So go out to the 8th floor Central Library and look at the list of databases and applications they've got. It's worth it. You have to have a Dallas library card. So, but I think quite a few of us on here do have. Anyway, well, we will see you in February at our next. Jean, do you know Jean Larson, the speaker for next month?
Yeah, it's Paul Beatty, and he is going to be talking about how he found his African-American great-grandfather using DNA. So I know there's a lot of interest in DNA research, so I know that will be of interest to people.
That is interesting.
And so it's kind of a case study of using DNA.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. First Saturday of February, everyone. We'll see you then. Remember the virtual help desk, January 26th, I believe it is, the fourth Tuesday, and then the different SIG meetings. So hope to see many of you at those meetings as well.
Great. Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
Goodbye, and Happy New Year to everyone, and hopefully we've got a better year ahead of us.
Amen.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks.
This has been a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. If you're not a member, please consider joining now by going to dallasgenealogy.com and clicking on the membership tab. Your membership dues will help us support the genealogy section of the Dallas Public Library, and it will allow us to continue our education and preservation efforts.